want you all to think of the glitchiest, unfinished, unpolished, most frustrating games you have ever decided to play. Maybe you're a Sonic 06 fan and still remember the release full of bugs and glitches that caused you to restart over and over. Or maybe you're a recent victim of that King Kong game on Steam that is so unbelievably bad that you can't even believe it's being sold. Bad or trash games are always going to exist, and the memes that come with them are the real point of the journey during the playthrough. Of course, we have to thank the brave messages who hate themselves more than anime fans do for playing these games, because God knows I couldn't do it. Thankfully, Rockrell is one of these brave soldiers as we transition into this season's dark horse, Shangri-La Frontier. The anime community is well versed in the VR MMORPG world. From the iconic Sword Art Online to series such as Log Horizon, we've gotten a fair share of the good and bad when it comes to how this type of setting is used. About a year ago, the first PV for this series came out, and it really took me by surprise. The presentation landed quite nicely, from showcasing some of the action we should expect ranging from the average mobs to boss battles, and the art was solid across the board. Naturally, come this season, even with such a massive lineup, there was just no way I was gonna miss this anime, and man, when I say that this is by far the most slept on show this season. Right off the bat, we get a protagonist that isn't necessarily OP, nor from the Kirito copy-paste character archetype, but is an enjoyer of garbage games. The challenge it provides is so comedically engaging to him that he pursues trash games one after another as if it were his life's craft. The first episode kicks off, no pun intended, with him completing one of the hardest and yet glitchiest games out on the market, and if that doesn't scream self-hatred, then I don't know what does. However, the thing about grindy games is that the more you play the same type of, you tend to get familiarized with tactics, terminology, and even ways to bypass glitches, which is quite natural, especially for the grindy games. For all my Destiny 2 or Division players out there, you all know what it is. The natural reaction to take towards the latest and greatest. A new challenge that wouldn't reside in faulty programming and coding, but instead lying in the unknown within the world of Shangri-La Frontier. Going from having to play a certain way in order to mine the bugs to being able to play at full skill level with an environment that keeps the playing field interesting is a very refreshing way to dive into the VR headset world once more, and right off the bat, there are so many things that the show does right. Now, I've seen a lot of people compare the series to SAO, and quite frankly, outside of the virtual world scenario, I don't think that's a fair comparison because of how well the show establishes its own identity right off the bat. For one, the MC relies on more so an unusual playing style with attack power, agility, and luck in terms of increasing those stats, which adds a lot more daring approaches to the combat. Plus, he doesn't really rock any armor, and trying to do content with a lack thereof is asking for your HP to hit the chopping block, but when you have the skills and reflexes to make up for it, it's hard to not be entertained. We are literally watching the anime version of Let Me Solo Her, except this time we have a blue bird head. As far as the combat goes, the monsters are actually not all easy mobs and tend to prove quite a challenge with adapting to attack patterns, clearly smart AI, and just having their own headache of skills of their own. Every battle is extremely fluid and it's also extremely kinetic, and I praise the production team for this level of quality. The first major obstacle just to reach the first town to hit a respawn point proved to not be such a simple task, and yet that's just a noob entry point. In just one episode, there is so much exposition to make you come back, and episode 2 doesn't let up much either. At the core of every game like anime is of course the grind, and it's not always gonna be just about XP. Whether it's farming materials, harvesting resources and nodes, farming and planting crops and waiting a few minutes to let it grow, those things are the peak MMORPG experience alongside the base game, and we already were introduced to crafting in a very relatable way. There is nothing more obnoxious than trying to mine a resource and then getting interrupted by mobs and attacked, causing you to stop what you're doing, re-equip your weapon, handle it, and then go back to the task at hand. It may not seem like such a big deal, but those little in-game moments where you can relate are not to be taken for granted, because relatability can be a huge factor for enjoyment. Even earlier in the episode with the poison effect and trying to set a spawn point before you die is also very real. Minecraft has it, Terraria has it, Core Keeper definitely does a good job with it, and as I stated earlier, this stuff is appreciated. I'm also actually quite thankful the series seems to be following in the steps of Log Horizon with the unique events. SLF has already gone out and paved the way with a really unique event, giving us a Yakuza bunny boss teaming up with our MC due to his approach to the in-game content piquing his interest, in which they describe as Vorpal, and the best part is that not even the forums know about this event. This is just one of probably dozens of unique scenarios and quest lines that can come from the show, and they feel so organic that you wouldn't necessarily mind something new popping up to take the attention. We know that all of this happens in a game, but making sure your NPCs feel like regular characters and the world itself feel alive really adds on to the immersion, because the stakes and player engagement should differ in a setting where unpredictable possibilities make the experience. Now, with everything in between laid out, none of it will really matter unless we talk about the endgame. Whether it be raids or dungeons or boss battles, the most important content and the reason why you play is exactly the reason why players continue to grind grind every day to reach those rewards. In SAO's case, it was more about surviving and coming back to reality, but SLF has its own unique traditional in-game system regarding the 7 Colossi. 7 unique secret monsters which can spawn anywhere at any time that also do not respawn once killed. They are not only designed to be nearly unbeatable, but can only be summoned by triggering the unique quest which nobody knows the conditions to currently. Additionally, once a Colossi is defeated, the world story moves forward and opens up new areas. Episode 3 by far is my favorite due to not only how incredible the presentation was for our first peek at a Colossi, but also showing the consequences of potentially losing to one as well. Rockero being absolutely wasted by the boss was the exact type of event that needed to happen in order for his fire to be lit, and interestingly enough, he didn't depart without a debuff either. That debuff being a curse that had multiple downsides, from lower level monsters fleeing on sight making it hard to farm them, to being unable to wear armor on the parts of his body that were afflicted by the curse. Unlike Let Me Solo Her, who chose to not wear armor, the game literally will not let him increase his survivability odds, hence the focusing of stats in speed, luck, and pretty much anything but armor and vitality, aka the common word of being a glass cannon. So on top of the fact that the world has a lot of unpredictable and random quest lines within the base game, every defeat of the Colossi essentially adds more new content to the game, furthering the list of unknown encounters, and like I said earlier, this world just constantly expands the more you learn about it. A lot of potential has been introduced to the audience in just under a few episodes, and it's been enjoyable every second of the way. Majority of the content so far has been PvE based, and we haven't even scratched the PvP content itch yet. A tournament arc in this setting would go incredibly hard, and I hope the author manages to pull the trigger on it. I know people are pretty burned by the early days of SAO, God bless Alicization for redeeming it greatly, but this is a very good showcase of how the VR MMORPG setting can be utilized at its best. As always, I extend the invitation to you all to please check out Shangri-La Frontier this season. It is easily one of fall's best anime and deserves a lot more conversation around it, just given how well it has managed to make its presence known. Also, I have heard fantastic things about the manga too, so if the anime manages to please you, then I have no doubt the manga will continue to meet your expectations as well. That's pretty much it from me though. As always, thank you for watching, and make sure to let me know all your thoughts about Shangri-La Frontier in the comment section down below. Stay warm out there, and I will catch you all in the next video.